I'll be completely honest with you guys. Just a few days ago, like shortly after hitting 100,000 subscribers, the T6 channel got demonetized. Again. I didn't post about it on the community tab this time because I'm just tired of the same routine over and over. However, because of all of that, I lost pretty much half of this week to find and record stories as I was busy trying to fix the problem and talk to support. YouTube has finally fixed the problem. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm just simply stating that I didn't have time this week, mostly to find stories. So with that, let's do this 100,000 Q&A. On Patreon, Twitter, and Reddit, and YouTube, I asked for you to ask me anything. And I'm not gonna lie, it feels good to be like, I'm a YouTuber now. Like 100,000 milestone Q&A videos is the tradition for the last decade, and I get to partake in it now. Feels odd, if I'm being real. Like, I've watched so many of my favorite YouTubers do their 100,000 Q&A, and now it's like, oh, I get to do it now. Holy shit. Anyway, let's get into this. What first got you into reading with your own voice? Also, I appreciate you not using some text-to-speech AI voice to read. It makes the video special. Well, honestly, you actually answered your own question. When I very first started, I literally had the purpose behind Time 6 to be like, I am so sick of text-to-speech voices. That is not to say I hate channels that do that. I just don't like content that does that. But I do know that they use it so they can get away with saying more offensive stuff. However, to make the answers short, simply just to make myself stand out from what would be labeled as quote-unquote competition. What is your favorite classic creepypasta, and what is your favorite green text? Favorite classic creepypasta is probably gonna be Russian Sleep Experiment. I read that back in, I want to say 2010? 2011? And holy shit. If we're gonna be really real right now, I would almost say that the Russian Sleep Experiment was like a deep-rooted seed for Maverick Files. Because at the time, I thought it was real. I thought this was like actually like declassified information. You know, I wasn't used to like creepypasta websites. I'm on this like black and red website. It looks all evil and scary. I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, I'm like 13, 14. And it's the first time, because I had very limited internet access growing up. So I was like a teen. And I was like, holy shit, what the fuck am I reading? And I thought it was real. Another favorite classic creepypasta? I'm probably gonna have to say Liars. Only because I think that story was one of the only stories to actually make me like jump scare from just reading. As in my favorite green text though, probably Anansi's Goat Man. That was the original. That would be the inspiration, the deep-rooted seed for Time 6. So Russian Sleep Experiment, because that was all like, holy shit, is this real? Is this actually like declassified information? Or is this like top secret information? Oh my god, it's scary. And then Anansi's Goat Man was the first time that I read a story that was like obviously fictional, but it made itself seem so real. And there was no, I mean, there's a lot of cursing, but it's fucking 4chan, so, but there was no like, you know, obscene gore. There was no disgusting additional details that just made it look edgy. It was just complete confusion, and that takes like a good amount of skill to like create that. It was one of those rare moments, for me at least, where I was able to kind of get that like, I almost want to say it's like a Lovecraftian feeling, where it's like the horror is incomprehensible, it is unexplainable, because that was like one of the very first times that I read something about a skinwalker. Another favorite green text, because your question just says green text, not just horror green text, but I'm going to go with the feels green text. Oh shit, there's two of them. There's two feels green text that I like. Calvin and Hobbes story and, hold on, The Ballad of E.B. It's the Irish guy who ends up having like a really disturbing and dark ending. But it's one of those like I'm laughing along with it and then like gut wrench. What was your favorite story / green text to narrate? Favorite story to narrate would be Pen Pal. I also had a lot of fun recording the I'm a search and rescue officer. But my favorite green text to narrate, as much as I said that I like Anansi's Goatman earlier, I'm gonna have to say my favorite green text to narrate would be, I'll be honest, I've recorded, literally years of green text, so I can't really nail one that would be my favorite story still to this day, because there are probably so many favorite stories that I've had over the years. But the one that I could think of that really stuck to me, or stuck with me, I should say, is I think Anon goes to the hospital, I guess after like a car crash or something, and then he goes under and he actually hears the doctors talking about like selling his organs, but then he comes to later that night or later the next morning, and I guess that's it. A pretty short story, but yeah, Anon overhears doctors talking about selling his organs and, you know, like accidentally pulling the plug on him so they can use his organs for like black market sales or some shit like that. What is the transition noise you use? It's so captivating. It is actually from Ghost Hack. I have so many samples and files from Ghost Hack, but it is literally just called Ghost Hack SFX number 5. Do you plan to someday have an editing team or people to help you with your content? Currently, I only have an audio editor, and that's only because I just don't like editing my voice anymore. I've been doing it for so long that it's just like, man. Anyway, and all it is that I'll record like 40 minutes of audio, maybe more, doesn't matter. I'll record like a long length of audio, and then I'll send it to him, and I'll just be like, hey man, you know, just a noise reduction, and then I'll send him the settings that I like, and then I'll tell him to do a truncate silence, or truncate silence, however the fuck you say it, and then I show him the settings of what I want for that, and then he does it. Well, and he also removes like any mispronunciations, any scrambles, any snaps, any background noise, and then he sends it back to me, and then I make it into a video. Editing team for Maverick Files, however, that one I'm gonna have to really, you know, fucking destroy my ego on, because Maverick Files is my baby. That's my passion project. But when it comes to stuff like music, like ambience, when it comes to visuals, when it comes to pacing, I am frustratingly a perfectionist when it comes to that. So, and I've worked with multiple people in the past, and nothing against them, but I would get it back. I would get whatever I paid for back. Rather it's a Fiverr freelancer or it's someone popular in the horror community, and I work with them and they'll send it back and I'll go, this is really good. I kind of want to tweak it. I want to tweak it just a little bit. That way it fits my exact standards. Not that I did anything wrong. Nothing like that. Just, that's how I am. I would really like to work with a team, because there's some things that I can't do as much as I want to. Like 3D animation, I don't have the patience for that. Holy shit, do I not have the patience for that. I'll still do it from time to time, but I'd really like to implement it more, you know? What's your favorite ice cream flavor? Controversial. I'm not a big ice cream guy. I know. I just recently learned that there's actually, like, people have sweet tooth. I don't have a sweet tooth. And then just the other day, just earlier this week, I found out that that's an actual thing called a salt tooth. I didn't know that. So I have a salt tooth. But if I had to choose, it's probably going to be something fucking damn. Oreo or cookie dough or something with peanut butter. What's your favorite video game and movie? My favorite video game, favorite of all time, would probably be a tie between Infamous 1 and Infamous 2. Favorite movie of all time? See, it doesn't say genre, so I'm gonna go with, like, in general, my favorite movie. La La Land. Easily. Since you cover such creepy/disturbing/heavy topics on both channels, do you do anything to keep a good headspace after researching and working on a video? Or does it really not affect you that much? No, I'm terrible about that. I have really done a number on my mental health because I don't do that. And that's my fault. That's not like I'm built tough or anything like that. I've had many burnouts based around just being emotionally drained. And sometimes I just want to be like, man, can I just talk about, like, internet horror stories, not like T6 stuff, but like analog horror or ARGs. Some that's just like, even if it's a dark story, I know it's all fictional. So, no, I don't really do anything to keep a good headspace. That's my fault. And the more lighter question is, what is your favorite color? Despite the fact that all of my stuff is always black and white, my favorite color is actually purple. Any good horror/disturbing things YouTube channel we might be sleeping on? I'm assuming you're asking if there's any horror channels that I would recommend, and I got you. There is Booze and Booze, there's Stories After Midnight, there's Debunk File, there's Opium, there's Wormwood, there's Pandox, there's Bandito, I hope I'm saying that right, there's Virtual Carbon, and Vibing Leaf. Vibing Leaf is one that I actually found when I was working on the Maverick Files creepypasta iceberg. There is Mr. Man, there's Sunflower, and if you're looking for something more like laid back, like watching someone draw as they talk about, whatever they like, Pitch Canker. Those are probably some of my favorites to go to. If I'm trying to binge watch, I think someone asked me this later on, if I'm trying to binge watch or something that I could just throw on and mindlessly watch, easily it's Found Flicks, and I also like Dead Meat. What are your favorite kind of 4chan stories, disturbing... What? What are your favorite kind of 4chan stories, disturbing, obscure topics to cover? My favorite kind of 4chan stories are the, oh god, okay. To keep it short, it's where the entity is just another human being. And I know that's the fucking cliche shit that everyone is so tired of in zombie movies, where it's like, oh, humanity is actually the bigger problem. That's not really what I mean, but it's like, it's the stories that sound very, very possible, where it's like, holy shit, that could be true. I love that. Like stalker stories, or like childhood stories. And disturbing, obscure topics to cover, I'm assuming you mean for like Maverick Files? I don't really have like a favorite topic. I do get really excited for like doing 4chan based videos for Maverick Files. Which, nudge nudge, sometime in August. But anyway, I don't really have any favorite topics to cover per se. Maverick Files is one of those like, whatever intrigues me at the moment, I'll cover. Can you tell us about... Oh, whoops. Can you tell us a bit about the face behind the project? Obviously nothing identifying, but outside of this, do you have any hobbies, ambitions, favorite food, or games? Hobbies? I love working out. I like cooking. I really do have such a massive passion for sound design. So sometimes I will just spend hours just making weird wonky noises in either FL Studio or sometimes even in Premiere, not gonna lie. Favorite food? I'm probably gonna have to say like, oh, you know what, fuck it. My recent favorite food has been onion rings. But listen to this truck. Listen what I have to deal with. It's fucking 5 a.m. and some dude's just fucking zooming with his truck. Shut up! But anyway, my go-to would be mozzarella cheese sticks. Fucking love that shit. Games? Whoa. Stardew Valley, Skyrim, get the basics out of the way. Black Ops 1 Zombies. And you know what? Fuck it. Of Black Ops 1 in general. Whole entire game, I fucking love that game. Had amazing fun playing Lethal Company. I've been dumping hours into Risk of Rain 2. I fucking hate Brawlhalla, but I play. I have, God, I don't even know how many hours into that game. Same thing with Slay the Spire. That's one of those games that like it can really piss me off, but I play it every single day. Oh, Minecraft, duh, obviously, the OG. Let's see what else is in my library. I actually don't know what else. Oh my God, Borderlands 2. That would be my favorite game. I'm not kidding. That is the game that I have bought across every fucking platform. I bought it when I had my PS3. I bought it when I had an Xbox 360. I bought it when I had a PS4. I bought it, or my friend bought it when he had a PS5 back when it was like, PS5s are like super, super rare. Bought it on that. I bought it when I got a PS5. I bought it on PC. I think I only got it on Epic. Epic was because it was free, if I'm going to be completely fair. So now I'm forced to have Epic, but either way, yeah. Borderlands 2. Borderlands 3, I can't. Sorry. I want to be nice to it, but I just can't. I got that shit on day one release, and if you got Borderlands 3 on day one release, then that's all I'm gonna say. You know. If Maverick Files and T6 had a YouTuber boxing match, which channel would win? T6. Maverick Files is very empathetic and spends too long researching, and T6 is like, fuck it. Hey, here I am, let's fucking go. Have you ever experienced something that might have been paranormal? I've experienced a few things, but I'm one of those people who it's like, I do fully believe in the paranormal, but I'm also incredibly skeptic. But when I was a very small lad, when I was like 10, I'll just say 10, for some reason, I treated my middle name as if it was like the worst thing imaginable. Like, how dare you call me that? Like, I'm not kidding. I don't know why, but, so none of my friends knew, no, none of my friends called me that because they knew that I was like very like anti my middle name, which by the way, my middle name is extremely like normal. One day, me and a friend, we're 10, we're walking on the sidewalk, and the sidewalk gets very, very, very narrow at this one point. So he walks up in front of me, so, none of us are walking in the street. And next, I have a memory of, I have 2 paranormal, actually. Anyway, at the time, my friend's ahead of me, and something whispers in my ear my full name, my full first name, my middle name, which again was like big no-no, and my last name, and it whispers in my ear. We're in this, well, I shouldn't say city, but we're in a very lively part of town. So the only way I would have heard a whisper is if it was like something came up to my ear and said it, and nothing was around. And I remember being confused, but being like, what the fuck do you want? Like, to my friend, being like, what do you want? Why'd you call me that? And he turns around and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, don't say my middle name. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Another paranormal story before I get on to the next question is I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me, ex-girlfriend was cheating on me via a dream I had. She was going out a lot more with like friends, and then I had this dream one night where she is, that night she was out, and I just get this dream, and in the dream she just keeps saying like, I'm sorry, and I mean, like, she's like crying, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I wake up, and the next day she comes home, and I kind of had this moment, like this emotional moment of like, hey, like, do you still love me? And she kind of, God, looking at it now, but so fucking creepy, because she looks at me like this, she has this brief deer in headlights moment, like, oh my God, does he know? Before she like fixes her like face, and she goes, of course I do, and she leaves. And then I find out, not even a week later, few days later, from a friend of a friend, that she cheated. And I was like, what the fuck? How did the dream know? Do you have a favorite story that you've recorded? If yes, which and why? I have a favorite story that I've recorded. I have a lot of favorite stories that I've recorded. I think it was the Russian deer story that I posted on the archives. That was a really good one. I also like the Russian detective stories. I've done a few detective stories. I've liked all of them. Just felt different. It just felt unique, What did you do before you became a full-time YouTuber? You're gonna get some lore with this one. So, I was working at a grocery store that was more of like a half factory, half grocery store. I had to get there at 4 a.m, and then I would spend the next about 5 hours just racing around the store with, I want to say like just 3 other people, and our job was to pack the shelves. So we would carry these big gigantic pallets around the entire store, and we would just like place where we can. This goes here, that goes there, this goes here, shove it in there, break boxes if you have to, who cares, as long as the product is on the shelf. And then we would race back, and then we'd have to clean the floor, and then I'd have to go into the deep freezer, which was always like negative 10 degrees. And they just gave me this like fucking pathetic little sweater, and it never worked, obviously. I would literally leave the deep freezer with like I shouldn't say icicles, but like sweat had frozen onto my like facial hair. I was doing that for like nearly a year, and then the car I was driving goes to shit, and I tell them, I'm like, hey, because they lived pretty out in the city. I lived in this fucking nowhere area. And I'm like, oh my god, my fucking car doesn't work. I apologize. And they're like, well, in the contract that you signed, you said you had reliable transportation. And now you're telling us you don't have reliable transportation. And they let me go. As in I got fucking fired. And that's when I was like, I had my big, what's the word I'm looking for? Catalyst. I guess that was the big catalyst. Because what happened is the car's brakes went out when I was on the highway. When I was approaching the highway. The highway was always busy every single morning for the entire 10, 11 months that I was working at this job. And the morning that my brakes go out, not a single car was on the highway. So I avoided so many possibilities of getting into a car crash. And I was like, wow. Like, once they let me go, I was like, wow, I almost got into a car crash, almost died, going to a job that I fucking hated, that was paying me dog shit to put my body through all this fucking horrible abuse. Manual labor is one thing, but it really was like you would just destroy your body because they would give you no proper equipment. It was one of those jobs I would get home and I would take a shower and I would just feel the water like hitting all of the cuts and bruises. So once they let me go, that was my big moment of being like, fuck it. I've wanted to be a YouTuber since I was like 15, maybe even younger than that. So I'm gonna fucking do it. And I did it. And it took me forever. And I lost so much doing this. And it was worth it. How did you get into this type of content? Fire emoji, 100 emoji. I used to be a live streamer on Twitch with a whopping 3 people. But I would try to stream fighting content. As in like combat games. That's how I actually got into Brawlhalla. But I was streaming off of I know it's a joke to say it, but like a literal potato of a computer. I mean, the fucking thing didn't have a GPU. I was streaming based off the motherboard's graphics. It was, oh my. Realized I couldn't stream fighting, so I streamed Stardew Valley for a while, but no one really cared to watch. And so one day I was like, I went to, I think, play some old Pokemon. It was like modded, and it crashed. And I was like in the middle of a stream, and I panicked, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Keep in mind, no one was watching, so I'm sitting here being like, holy shit, I gotta find something to do. And at the time, with said ex-girlfriend, her and I were listening to a lot of Let's Read and Corpse Husband, trying to think of other people. A lot of big narrators. We were listening to a bunch of them. And I was like, fuck it, let me try it. Because she would always say like, oh, you have a really soothing voice. And I was like, well, yeah, you're my girlfriend. I would hope you would say nice things about me. So I always kind of just like brush it off. I'm just bad with that though. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to try recording. And I started recording some 4chan green text story. And I ended up being like, well, wait, like this is actually content that I can do like easily because my computer's a piece of shit. I don't have graphics. And I don't need graphics. I just need to show the story, which is just an image. And then I can open up Audacity, or I can open up FL Studio, whatever I wanted to at the time. Because even though the computer was a fucking potato, it still had like 16 gigs of RAM, which is very, very impressive for a dinky little computer. And then when I realized, hey, I actually enjoyed narrating, boom, Time 6 was born. Well, the YouTube channel, Time 6 was born. Are you happy and do you enjoy the work you do now? Because you enjoying it is as equally important as us enjoying it. And is there anything else you would like to try to... Hold on. And is there anything else you would like to try do going forward? / any video ideas. Is there anything you would like to try to do going forward? Okay. So am I happy and do I enjoy the work I do now? I fucking love the content that I do for T6. I fucking love the atmosphere, the environment, the content. I love the community. I love you guys. Not in a weird way. I actually really fucking hate when YouTubers are like, oh, I love you. Like, what the fuck? No, I don't mean it in a weird fucking way. I don't mean it as like, you and I are close. Like, I just mean I love the fact that every single time I can upload a story, if it's a dog shit story, or if it's a story that doesn't make any sense, or if it's a really good story, I can go to the comments and I can just have a great time reading. Because I know you guys always leave comments about being like, I love when you interrupt and, shit on a story. But I love reading the comments that you guys do that. It is so funny reading some of your comments, or just hearing like about your day. I generally read those. I literally will sit down and read like, hey T6, I'm going to work reading to this. Hey T6, I'm doing night shift. Hey T6, I'm drawing, or I'm playing a game, or I'm getting high, or I'm drinking, and I showed my friends this and we all watch you, and it's like, fuck yeah. I am incredibly unhappy with Maverick Files. I have been struggling to change the direction of the content because I really don't want to do true crime anymore. I don't want to do declassified anymore. I got a lot of hate from my recent declassified video because I discussed how the CIA had files about quote unquote, the cure for cancer. I'm not saying at any point in the video that the government does have a cure or whatever. I just simply wanted to discuss the fact that, hey, the CIA does have like files of like people they've researched. But I've received a lot of hate because people were like, how dare you, you're feeding into conspiracy theories. Same thing with the gang stalking video. I had so much fun making that video, and then I posted it, and whoa, I received a lot of flack for that one, which really annoyed me because a lot of the flack was like, how dare you try and downplay us, you don't believe us. And it's like, hey guys, fun fact, the gang stalking video was actually made to be like, you guys actually make some good points. But they watched the first like 5-10 minutes out of a nearly hour-long video, and they go, this is how the entire video is going to be. I'm going to leave 4 paragraphs of hate and then not watch the rest of the video. So it's like, I kind of just want to get away from that. It's become very, not draining, because I enjoy the process of Maverick Files. It's just the topics. I want to start finding, as I said earlier, more internet topics. I really enjoy making like 4chan stories for Maverick Files. Again, nudge nudge, sometime in August. But other than that, I haven't really enjoyed a lot of this stuff. A lot of the stories, I mean. How do you find the topics for the Maverick Files videos? They're always super interesting subjects and stuff I've never heard of before. I usually rabbit hole my stuff, if I'm going to be completely honest. Everything is mostly accidental. I'll read an article completely out of nowhere, just rather someone posted it on Facebook, or someone posted it on Instagram, or someone posted it on Twitter, and suddenly, several clicks later, I'm reading something that I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard of this before, and I don't think anyone's like talking about this. I want to talk about it. But like I said, it's mostly accidental. And I kind of like it like that. It's very organic in a way. Has there ever been any topics or stories that were too disturbing for you to cover, or you had to stop midway through? Yeah, the one story that I will never cover that I've been requested a few times is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. It's either Junko Furuta, a high school student who had horrific things done to her for almost like a month and a half straight before she was just murdered and put in a barrel underground. And it was one of those stories that it's like, I can't. Way too much. The skin suit case was another one that I've had to stop myself a few times. And also, Terrifying Noises, the series. There's been a lot of times where I had to just like stop halfway through and be like, I need a break. Unlimited bacon, but no games. Or games, unlimited games, but no games. Unlimited bacon, but no games. Unlimited bacon, but no games. Games, unlimited games, but no games would probably keep my sodium down. So I'm going to have to say games, unlimited games, but no games. Favorite horror novel or horror movie of all time, and why? That's a great fucking question because I have a lot. Favorite horror novel, 2 of them, would be Cell by Stephen King. That shaped me when I was in like 10th grade. I was reading that and I was like, oh my god, I never had a concept like that before. I was also in 10th grade, so. But From a Buick 58, or Buick 8, I think is what it is. Another Stephen King book. And that one is, I would say, his attempt at Lovecraftian horror. A concept that is incomprehensible, unexplainable, it's not even understood, and it's also like rooted in generational trauma. And it's grotesque, it's disturbing, and it's vile, and it's graphic. But it has all of that wrapped up in a nice bow of just, what the fuck is happening? But not in a way it's confusing, just in a way where it's like, I want to know more, but we can't find out more because the characters don't know what they're dealing with. It's just good. Cell got a movie and it fucking sucked. And as much as I want to be optimistic about From a Buick 8 getting a horror movie, I would not be optimistic about that either. But favorite horror movie of all time, easily The Thing. 1982? Or is it 1985? Hold on. 1982. The Thing, 1982. I watched that. My dad made us watch that when I was like 6 or 7. Oh my god, did that disturb me. And still, I think I just watched it a few months ago and I was like, this held itself in the test of time. I mean, oh my god, fantastic. And you know what? I understood the hate for the remake in 2011, but I kind of liked it. Except for the fucking spaceship. That shit was dog shit. Or the like ending alien. I didn't like that design, but there's not really supposed to be a design. That's what I liked about The Thing so much, which is also kind of the reason why I like From a Buick 8, because the entire time you're trying to figure out what is this thing, and you never get an answer. Or it's also been so many years since I've read From a Buick 8. From what I remember, there is no answer. There is no explanation for it. The Thing. Oh, another favorite horror movie, because I literally just said it, is It, 2017. What a great movie that was. The sequel, dog shit. Hated it. Sorry, hated it. What is your favorite cryptid? Mothman. I've been wondering if you've ever considered uploading your videos on Spotify or another audio streaming service as a podcast. I don't support Spotify. I will never use Spotify. I don't use Spotify. Jesus Christ. I don't use Spotify in my day-to-day or my personal life. I do not like Spotify. However, I have thought about looking into other audio streaming services. I don't really give myself time to do so, and that's on me. What are some of your favorite and least favorite tropes in modern horror media? Fucking jump scares. I've always hated them. Always, always, always. They're cheap, they're boring. The suspense is so fucking frustrating. My favorite trope, though? I like when a horror movie isn't afraid to go into gore. Like, Saw, that was like the first time that we saw like body horror in a way that was like, holy shit, this isn't just like, big monster attack with a sword or attack with knives or daggers or, they cut them up. This was like bodies being dipped into like acid while they're still alive. It was crazy stuff. First time that I was like, whoa, this feels original. And even now that it's not original, it's still like, I'll still be like, whoa, holy shit. That was a good kill. Which is also why I like Dead Meat, the YouTube channel. Top 5 musicians / genres. Whoa, that's a fucking... I cannot choose. I won't go with genres. Top five musicians. God, let me see. Sudden Death, Ginseng, Coda, Lich King. I think I'm at 3 right now. I'm trying not to choose all of like the same genre. I'm gonna have an honorable mention. This doesn't count as part of the top 5, but an honorable mention is Skrillex. I grew up listening to Skrillex. So I'll always be a fanboy for Skrillex, but that's my little cringy, little personal share. But that doesn't count as a top 5. Ooh, Second Thoughts. That's 4. And The Smiths. Fuck it. That's 5. What editing software do you use for videos? I record my audio with Audacity, and then I clean it up after I get it back from my editor. And also times I do just clean up my own audio because it's like, I'll end up recording on a Wednesday night, and I'm like, I don't want to just send it over to him and be like, hey, you have less than 24 hours to get this back to me. So sometimes I will just edit it myself. But when it comes to cleaning up, I use Adobe Audition, and that's for like EQs and filters. And then I use Adobe Premiere like 95% of the time for my videos. And then if I'm trying to spruce it up, then I'll use some After Effects. It's mostly Adobe Premiere Pro. Do you ever struggle to find / pick stories to narrate? Absolutely. But also that's kind of something I'm happy that I've built within this community, is that if I'm ever just like, this story kind of sucks, I'm going to read it anyway, and then I'm going to make like a little jab at it, being like, hey, what the fuck does this mean? And I know that you guys are also going to be in the comments being like, what the fuck was that author talking about? What's your favorite genre to narrate about? It bounces around. As I said earlier, I like the stories that are about, like, that seem very, very possible. I like nature anomalies. I used to be a massive Skinwalker fan, and I still like Skinwalker stories, but there was a brief moment where I really enjoyed ghost stories, but that kind of faded out pretty quickly. I don't know if I really have a favorite genre. Oh, I know, because I have received a lot of comments over the years asking me to cover more feel stories. Feel stories was one of those, like, bittersweet genres, because I absolutely love the way they're written, but the videos never do well, and now it's really, really difficult to find stories about it. So, do you enjoy Vidya? And if so, what's your favorite game? I have a love-hate relationship with Vidya. There'll be times where I could kill an entire day just playing a game, and then there's times where it's like, I'll boot up a game for 5 minutes and then just be like, why am I playing this? And I close it. And it'll be like that over and over, and just, I can't stop. Even with my favorite games. I could either play it for 16 hours straight, or I'll play it for 3 minutes and go, nah. But my favorite game, I said this before, it's Borderlands 2. I was thinking about Skyrim. I was also trying to be like, I don't want to be cliche, Skyrim is everyone's answer, blah, 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 blah. And now there's going to be people in the comments being like, I hate Skyrim. Shut up. You're wrong, actually. How's your cat doing? Hold on. Hey, how you doing? Oh my gosh. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Hello. They're asking about you. Oh, she's so sleepy. Oh my gosh. Okay, here you go. Here you go. She's very good. Show us your old school RuneScape stats. Well, here we go. Sorry. I never played RuneScape. Ooh. That's not true. I played RuneScape earlier this year. But that was after my friends were like, hey, you should play RuneScape. It's on Steam now. I was like, alright, fine. And the reason I didn't play old school RuneScape is because I didn't have a problem with it. I just never picked it up because I was too busy playing fucking Adventure Quest Worlds. I played that game religiously. I have had so many characters and classes. I think that was before they allowed you to change your class. I mean, I played Adventure Quest Worlds when like level 20 was the level cap, and then everyone would farm the red dragon for like the Dragon Slayer class, if anyone knows what the fuck I'm talking about. So, unfortunately, no RuneScape stats because I played Adventure Quest Worlds. And also Udemons. Any posts you've read that stuck with you for one reason or another? Yes, abso-fucking-lutely. I narrated it too on the archives. Ooh, 2 stories. Holy shit, 2 stories. One was a construction worker paving a new road, and he says that a kid runs out, and he runs over the kid with a steamroller, and then no one notices. So what he does is he just keeps going back and forth until the kid is literally paved underground. Dead, obviously, because, they're getting run over by a steamroller. But anyway, yeah, where a guy talks about, or confesses, quote unquote, of paving a kid into the ground, and the mom comes out and is like, where the hell is my kid? And he's like, well, I don't know. Meanwhile, they're like standing on the kid. Really fucked up. Has always stuck with me. Another one is actually, I put it in when 4chan disturbed the internet on Maverick Files. It was the Happy Mommy story, and I can't really go into detail about that one. That one's very disturbing and graphic, but pretty much it's like the stranger, weirdo kid that no one's friends with, and so OP ends up talking to the kid, and the kid's like, I made a video game, and it was like, Happy Mommy, ? And you either typed in yes or no. And so he would just type yes, and then it would be like, Happy Mommy, and that's it. And a long story short, turns out the kid's mom is dead. And the kid has just been going home with the mom hanging in like the kitchen or something. And then more bad stuff happens, and that really fucked me up. What is the scariest story you've ever read? So this just says read and not narrated. Scariest story I've ever read? I almost want to say Pet and Pal. I read that back when I was still in high school, and that fucked with me. It is still to this day my favorite creepypasta. One of my favorite creepypastas. Have you considered narrating spooky stories from other places like r/no sleep? Yes, and I will be doing that. What do you do besides YouTube? Like any hobbies or jobs you want to share? So YouTube's my full-time job. I do T6 and Maverick Files, and that holds me over. But hobbies, as I've said before, I like working out, I like cooking out, all that stuff. I also like, I don't want to say graphic design, but I don't know what it would be called. I just like editing. That's why I like Maverick Files so much. What is the most terrifying story you've encountered on 4chan? Will you post more on Maverick Files? Do some stories get so strange they make you think that they're real? If so, which? Okay, this is like multiple questions, how dare you? But I'll answer them all, because I'm very nice. What's the most terrifying story you've encountered on 4chan? Okay, never mind. It's going to be story with a dead man, or story time with a dead man, or whichever one it was. It was the Anon who claimed that he worked with Epstein, or worked for Epstein. Really fucking dark. Will you post more often on Maverick Files? I try to do every month, maybe every month and a half. But yes, Maverick Files is not over. Do some stories get so strange they make you think that they're real? Yeah, kind of as I said before, the stories that have no paranormal basis to them. Like the one I actually covered on T6 not too long ago was, I think it was about like disturbing phone calls. And Anon was talking about when he was a kid, he used to have someone call the house and ask for him. And so he would take the phone, and next thing the guy on the phone would just like start talking about like horrific things he's going to do to him as a kid. And then they found out, eventually called the police, got him tracked, found out that he was like this big pedophile who had like a record. And that's the type of stuff that it's like, whoa, like, yeah, you could obviously just type this up to tell a story, but it felt real. What is your least favorite trope you see in green texts? I actually made a post about this on my YouTube community notes, I think on the archives, maybe. I don't know if I've deleted it, but either way, in a lot of K's in a Wood stories, they used to use this similar phrase to describe like when a skinwalker showing up, or is like around. First they would talk about like the copper smell in the air. I was fine with that. But then they would always say like, oh, and then the woods went silent. No birds, no bugs, nothing. And they would say that over and over and over and over. It would always be like, it was dead silent. No wind, no birds, nothing. And I got to a point where I was like, how many, is this the same guy writing all of these stories? Which is very possible, but it always just got on my nerves because it's like, yeah, I get it, but you don't have to use that exact phrase. And another least favorite, as many of you know, is the fucking, and then we never talked about it ending. I fucking hate that. What a lazy ending that is. The only way I could justify or understand is like, if it's like repressed trauma. But then it's like, oh, we don't talk about it. That's not, we don't talk about it. That's, you can't talk about it because the memory is repressed. But it can't be repressed if you're telling us online in grand detail what happened. So it always just feels very lazy to be like, oh, me and my friends went camping, experienced horrors beyond imagination. We just don't talk about it anymore. So it's like the fact that you're not talking about something so severe or something so crazy with your friends just feels, I don't know, fake. I could understand like maybe once or twice, but it comes up so often of just being like, and then we never talk about it at the end. How much time would you say goes into making a 20 to 30 minute green text video? A few days. I'd say like three days. 4 days tops if it's a 30-minute green text. What's your favorite flavor of Four Loko? There is no such thing as a favorite flavor of Four Loko. That shit is always gross. But probably fruit punch. Were there ever any stories you thought were too bad to narrate? A lot of them. It depends what you mean by too bad. Poorly written? Most of them. Too graphic? Back when it was Trump versus Clinton, there was a guy who acted like who LARPed as someone who was like a government insider, talking about like, oh, we can't really discuss things in detail with you guys because it would get me killed. And everyone's like, yeah, okay. But he goes on for like a very long time. Big conspiracy theory thing. Do you go on X and find scary green text, or do you find them elsewhere? I do go on X. I do not make threads on X. And no, please do not go on to X and try to like find me. I'm never gonna respond. There's no point in shitting up the board with being like, oh, hi T6. There's no reason for that. I've seen a few of those already, and it's like, no, hi, but also don't do that. You can just say hi in the comments. Would you ever consider a face reveal? Yeah, I've thought about it multiple times, and I've leaned towards doing it. Have you had any other ideas for a YouTube channel? And if you didn't do T6, what would you do? If I had the balls, I would do a fitness channel. Just very, very similar to Sam Sulek, where it's like, I'm not trying to give you guys advice. I'm not trying to tell you guys what to eat. I'm just simply showing what I'm eating in the day and what I'm lifting in the day and, talking about my day. Something still kind of like T6 vibes, but we also get big and strong. What music do you like? Do you play any instruments? I used to play the piano. I don't anymore. What music do you like? Country music where they tell a story, not radio country music. I am heavily into EDM. When I was still working at the store, I was trying to be an EDM producer at the time, and I'm very glad that didn't happen because EDM is kind of dead as like a career. What's your favorite non-USA country-specific setting for creepypastas and other spooky stories? Norway or Finland. The problem with a lot of, it doesn't have to be non-USA, but the problem with a lot of country-specific settings for creepypastas and spooky stories in general is that there is often deep lore and history and traditions rooted in the stories. And sometimes the author just kind of makes up shit, and then I kind of get hate because people think that I'm telling my own story. And they're like, that didn't fucking happen. They don't actually believe that in so-and-so country. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, but also the author apparently didn't know that because they wrote it. Can you find more long-winded stories like the taxi driver stories or the guy who lived in Australia with his aunt? Fucking Aunt Viv. I'm going to recover that or redo that story sometime. It's actually very difficult to find more long-winded stories because I've covered so many of them. That's why I do so many compilations, because it's just easier to find short stories and then combine them together versus like trying to find a long-winded story that doesn't end in pure dog shit or doesn't go like halfway through into it and start turning like schizo. That has happened so many times. What got you into horror stories in the first place? How did you come across Chan stories? I've always liked the feeling that I got when I came to like reading horror. I like that being scared feeling. I like that, like what's going to happen next. I like the tension. So it's always been like that, even before I was making content. How did I come across Chan stories? Well, unfortunately, I grew up on 4chan. I've been on 4chan since probably like 2010, 2011. I'm curious as to what your setup looks like. What mic do you use? Is there anything you do before recordings? I have 3 monitors, 2 wide monitors, and then 1 normal 1080. That's all to make editing easier for me personally. It's beneficial for both Premiere and FL Studio because FL Studio allows you to, I forget what the word for it is called, almost like break windows, where I can just like take one plugin window and I could drag it to the side. And then I can take another window in FL Studio and put it up on the one monitor. And then I could and it allows me to be much more like clean with my process. I use the SM7B as my microphone, and I kind of just do some standard throat warm-ups, and then I drink some water. That way that just removes a lot of like tongue pops, rehydrates my mouth. What are you playing right now? Any recommendations? As I've said before, I am dumping hours into Risk of Rain 2. Curious if you've ever had any sketchy people that may have commented or contacted you with things a little too disturbing. When the archives was very first, I'm talking like very, very first started getting growth. Like when I was like around 3,000 subscribers, I had a Discord server. And there was like a good handful of people in there. And then other green text channels had some extremist fans come in, and they straight up doxed me. They found personal Instagram of me, and they were called, they had the fucking, like, nationalist, white supremacist, fucking anime pictures, and I was like, of course that's what you guys, but they got so fucking mad at me because all because I didn't say slurs in my videos. I'm not kidding. That was the reason why they fucking came after me. If I recall, I think one of them was like, what was it? It's like, you're mainstream. No, it wasn't mainstreaming green texts. What the hell was it? Anyway, their whole thing was like, you should be saying slurs because that's part of the green text formula. And I was like, you should probably get help. I haven't had any people contact me with things a little too disturbing that aren't just like stories. Dear Mr. Time 6, you will wake up in a mysterious room. The weathered stone brick walls around you lack any visible defects. There is a door, but it's locked. There is also a window, blocked with metal bars. Looking through the window, you can see it's an enormous drop into a lake below. An annoying buzzing sound fills the room, emitting from a dim overhead light. There are 6 objects lying on the floor around you. A pair of blue jeans, an unopened copy of Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree edition, a bag of spicy dill pickle flavored chips, family-sized, a live mouse, an oven mitt, and a metal water bottle with a sticky note attached. The words, "Stay hydrated" with a smiley face, scrawled on its surface in particularly poor handwriting. You debate on whether to count the sticky note as an additional object, putting yourself in the precarious predicament. What do? I could do one of 2 things. I could I could tear apart the pants into like a little nest, open up the bag of chips, make sure, I don't know what I would do with the one. I would find a way that I could like tilt it sideways so that it's like dripping out water, but it's not spilling water. So it's just like drips of water at a time. I would use the oven mitt and I'd put some of the pants stuffing into there. And then I would bash my head against the wall until I die. But the live mouse has like some food and water and a nice little home. Or I could pretend I died with the pants like tucked over my head or something. And then I would just wait until the door opens. I would use one of the pants legs to see by the door. They would think I'm just crouched in the corner playing dead, but secretly I'm waiting. And if the door has to open eventually. I mean, can't just be there for no reason. If they're locking me in a room for me to die in, then you would think they would just like cement over the door. So I'd just wait for the door open, and then we would go from there. What's the most awfully written green text you've read? Easily the fucking Laura Croft pregnant video. I'm interested in learning about the inspiration for the name channel. I've talked about this a few times, but it makes no sense, so I'll talk about it. Back when I was a live streamer, when I was doing the combat, or when I wanted to stream combat games, I was already in that algorithm mindset of being like, what's gonna get me out there? What's going to help me be boosted in the algorithm? And I was like, I know that they always say that a lot of comments boosts you in the algorithm. So I was like, oh, well, if I'm doing combat fighting with like combos, I should always, like, I could make it into like a thing where it's like, oh, how many combos can I get? Can I get, a 6 combo? Can I get a ×6 combo? And if every time I hit the X6 combination, then I would have it built so that everyone would be like, oh, hey, T6 or X6 or XVI. And then streaming went nowhere, and I moved over to YouTube, and I kept the name. It literally was meant to farm engagement, and now I am ×6 as my name. It doesn't mean its original purpose anymore. Do you change your normal voice when narrating? Either way, I find it nice to listen to. I'll read slower, but I don't change pitch. I don't do any intense, dramatic theatrics when I'm reading, because I wanted this to just come off as like, hey, I'm reading you a story. I'm reading us a story. I found these stories. Aren't these weird? And that's it. Are there any moments in your videos or videos as a whole that you're embarrassed of? Yeah, majority of my early stuff for the archives. I just said that I don't change my voice, but very, very, very beginning archives, they're probably gone now. I probably fucking deleted them, thankfully. I used to read with like a scary voice where I would try to like I would try to read very croaky and very scary. So stupid. And also a lot of my intros and outros in the archives were so fucking loud. I would like read normal horror stories with like a nice like ambience or like some fucking Mew or however you pronounce his name, using like some of his piano tracks. It'd be nice and quiet and calm, and next thing you know, it'd just be like, boom, outro music, loud as fuck outro music. Really embarrassed about that. What was your biggest YouTube inspiration? PewDiePie, hands down. What were/are, besides Maverick Files, your other YouTube ideas? I was going to be a League of Legends content creator back in like 2015. I was going to make skit videos back in 2016. I was going to make video game challenge content, and then I lost everything. And I was stuck with a potato of a computer. So I was like, I can only create and edit, like narration videos. When I very first started, I had a blue Yeti, but I also had a blue snowball. And now here we are. What got you into horror? Like I said, I enjoy the feeling of tension and the feeling of the unknown. What's the funniest green text you remember that started off seriously and then ended with a stupid punchline? There are so many Fresh Prince of Bel-Air endings. There are so many Everybody Walk the Dinosaur endings. What do you like to do in your free time? Any fun interests or hobbies? Game. It's one of those, like I said, love-hate relationship where it's like or find music. And sometimes I'll just spend my free time just researching Maverick Files. Topics, I mean. What is a word/phrase in these green texts that make you cringe or that you think is overused? I said it before, and I will gladly say it again. It's the, we don't talk about this, or no one talks about this anymore. What's your favorite band? Whoa. Oh, let me see. I want to choose a different answer than compared to the 5 musicians that I chose before. Favorite band? Ooh. I'll say Dayglow. And Arcade Fire. I like Arcade Fire. T6 is my go-to channel when it's the weekend, when I want to grind on a game and have some drinks. I'm curious about what is your go-to content for just that occasion. What do you listen to or watch to wind down and tune the world out for a bit? Jeez. I will watch Pay Money Wubby. I'll watch General Sam. I'll watch Found Flicks. Voidzilla. Coffeezilla. Same person, but Voidzilla posts more. And a lot of like TV show analysis. I like to watch a lot of like people analyzing Mad Men and BoJack Horseman. I don't know why. Your Maverick Files content is really well made. Do you use a team? Nope, just me. What is your favorite Adult Swim show, since you got the channel aesthetic from the logo? When I was growing up, it was Robot Chicken. I grew out of that by the time I was like 14. And then it became... I want to avoid shows like King of the Hill and Family Guy because those shows could be found across multiple platforms. So with Adult Swim specifically, I would have to say Aqua Teen Hunger Force. How many of the green texts do you read you think are true stories? Very, very rarely do I think the stories I read are true. Who do you want to work with more? I know you worked with Tetsuya for a bit, but have you considered making a video with other creators like like Midnight Broadcast and etc.? I actually have worked with Midnight Broadcast. There's a video of his on one of his videos on his channel when I was finally restarting the narration career, I guess. For those unaware, there is a previous channel called T6 Archives. YouTube fucking killed the channel with demonetization, which is what I was talking about literally at the beginning of this video. It's what they've targeted me a lot of times, and it's always the same excuse over and over, and it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, when I was coming back, I was like, hey man, would it be okay if I was like, if I had like a little reading in your video? And he was like, yeah man, of course. So that was really fun. When it comes to narrating though, I don't really like working with other narrators, specifically because I know you guys are coming to T6 for the way I read things. If you wanted to listen to other narrators, you would go to them. It's completely different from Maverick Files, but that's how I feel about T6. It's not a jab or anything towards other narrators. I've worked with Let's Read a few times, actually, but yeah, it's more of just like every narrator has their thing, has their niche, however you want to say it. Mine is that I just like to read calmly to you guys. That's really just my voice. I just happen to read calmly. But I know a lot of narrators like to put on an act, like the voice act. But that is not how I read, and I don't want to mix content that is like way different niches, I guess. But yeah, I kind of prefer staying in my own little corner when it comes to T6. What's your MBTI personality type? I have no fucking idea. I'm apparently a mediator. I am INFP. What's your biggest passion, Mr. T6? My biggest passion would be Maverick Files and Whole. I've been a follower on multiple accounts of mine, following multiple accounts of yours. A few times you threw in a towel and started over, and especially this last time when you stopped T6, now T6 Archives. I could hear in your voice that you were burnt out, but after about half a year, you came back and sounded energized and passionate again. What caused you to find the spark again? Thanks again for years of entertainment. So I know exactly what you mean. You were completely right that I was burnt out at one point. But I was also burnt out because I was still continuing my upload schedule after the archives got demonetized. I thought I could continue with the channel after losing monetization, and I'll just be like, hey, I'll just work on Maverick Files and rely on Patreon. But at the time on archives, I was doing 3 uploads a week, and that was draining me because I was watching my channel die. Fun fact, when a video gets demonetized or a channel in whole gets demonetized, YouTube plucks your channel out from the algorithm. You might as well just be sitting in a black hole, and the only views you're getting are from like people who regularly watch you. You are very rarely going to get discovered from others. Your videos aren't going to get discovered. You literally are watching your channel die or watching your video die if it's demonetized. It sucks. That's why so many YouTubers complain, because it's like, yeah, of course, don't get me wrong, we want the money, but it's most importantly, it's because it's not going to get views. And in the end, why am I making videos if they're not going to get watched? That's as simple as that as that is. After about a half a year, you came back and sounded energized and passionate again. Yeah, when I threw in the towel for the old channel, I just said, fuck it, I'm focusing on Maverick Files. At the time, I was living with I was living with my best friend, actually. I was living with a few roommates. All of us were good friends, and he supported me from the very beginning. And I started dating a new girl, not kidding, right after the channel died. And I told her that I was like, hey, look, I don't know if this Maverick Files thing is going to work out, because at the time, Maverick Files was like maybe 2,000 subscribers, making pennies on the dime, pennies on the dollar, whatever the fucking phrase is. It wasn't making me a lot of money. So I was like, look, like, I would completely understand if you're like, hey, you seem nice, but I kind of want someone more financially secure. I'd be like, yeah, fucking understandable, bye. But she was like, no, I believe in you. And then I quit the archives, or I quit the T6 channel, and I had one last paycheck from YouTube, and it was $1,000, and I scraped every penny that I could. That $1,000 last as long as possible, up until Maverick Files would pop off. And I remember very specifically in July of that year, I messaged her, and I was like, at this point, her and I had been dating for a few months, and I messaged her saying, look, if Maverick Files doesn't work out in the next month or so, I'm quitting. I'm going to hang up into programming. I'm going to be a coder, because at the time I was trying to find a job as a coder after the channel got shut down. And then end of August, Maverick Files blows up. And I watched a new community be formed. And I sat there and I was like, I missed reading you guys' stories, as weird as that sounds. I just wanted to have that vibe again. But, Maverick Files was very serious, but I wanted something to kind of like fall back on, of being like, okay, I just finished this really dark, heavy topic. or there's really like a ton of research, I also just want to fall back and be like, look at some crazy stories that I found. And that's when I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna make a new channel, and that's when I made this channel. And I posted the announcement on the archives, being like, hey, watch this, or whatever whatever the video is called. It's the fucking Avengers little meme that I created. And then in the comments, I give like very lengthy explanation of what's happening, why I'm doing this. And I'm not kidding, I cried that night because there were so many comments from you guys being like, just being kind, being passionate, talking about everything I've done for you, you know, all of the bad moments that you guys had that I helped you get through by you know, you listening to my videos. I never in my entire life imagined that would have that much of an effect. And still to this day, I get comments like that. And watching this channel pop off the way it has been the only sign that I ever needed to be like, hey, I obviously enjoy doing this, and you guys obviously enjoy the content. I just need YouTube to stop fucking around. Is YouTube your full-time job or a side thing for you? YouTube is my full-time job. How often do you get tired of browsing 4chan in hopes of finding something worthwhile? I don't get too tired. It's very simple to search through the boards. I'll spend maybe a few minutes, and if I'm not finding anything, then I'll just go to Fit and shitpost. Who's your favorite YouTuber? Oof, my favorite YouTuber. Favorite of all time. Favorite YouTuber, probably CoffeeZilla. I think CoffeeZilla is the content creator that it's like, if they upload, then it's like one of those like, I'm stopping what I'm doing. Trying to think off the dome who else would be my favorite. Ooh, Johnny Harris. Yeah, I really enjoyed Johnny Harris as well. How old are you and how long have you been on 4chan? I know it seems like a strange question, but your voice sounds sort of young, but then again, mostly older people go on 4chan, or maybe that's just my Gen Z logic speaking here. Surprisingly, I'm actually fucking 28. I've been on 4chan, as I said earlier, since 2010, 2011. I want to say I've heard of Jesus Christ. I've heard of 4chan since 2010. I started actively lurking there by 2011, so a good fucking decade. But yeah, I'm actually an old man. How do you categorize what stories go on your main channel? Would you ever consider making some lower quality videos on a second channel? I don't know if you've heard of Tales from the Trip, but he also had a second channel, or he also has a second channel, where he reads stories live, no editing, etc. He just reads and has his genuine reactions and also his tangents. I think it would be interesting, but I know you have a lot on your plate with T6 and Maverick Files. I've worked with Tales from the Trip. We have videos together on both my channel and his channel. I don't really categorize what stories go on the main channel, implying T6 is the main channel, which it is. Despite Maverick Files being bigger, Maverick Files is actually the side project, quote unquote. It's still a full-time job because it's YouTube, but I focus on making content for T6, and then I'll work on Maverick Files. Would I ever consider making some lower quality videos on a second channel? Yeah. I mean, I'm not against the idea. I just don't really know what I would be posting, because I don't want to do like funny 4chan stories, because nowadays that would get a channel fucking deleted. What's the song you use for your intros? It's actually not a song. It's a sample from a lo-fi pack that I downloaded years and years ago. So that's it. It's just a sample. A lo-fi sample pack mixed with like an ambience, and I think it's pitched down. And then that at the very ending, to kind of like create the tail off fade out effect, there is I sampled the alien from Alien Isolation. I think that's what the game is. So actually in the intro you hear an alien hiss, and then the intro's over. That's all something that I put together. Do you ever see yourself ever branching out to different content? If so, what kind have you considered? I'm not gonna lie, when T6 was demonetized earlier this week, I was like, if YouTube doesn't fix this, I am just going into streaming, and I would just do talking and do like fun game challenges with you guys, I would rather just be like, oh, I'm playing this game, but the challenge is this. And then you would just sit back in and watch the chaos ensue. And as I said earlier in the video, if I had the balls, I would do a fitness channel. But I don't. How do you make sure you're not telling the same stories? Do you remember? The OGs would know that I used to catch a lot of fucking flack because I wouldn't realize that I was telling the same story. And it would happen pretty quickly too. In 1 week, I'd read like whatever Skinwalker story, and then like just a few weeks later, I would reread it. I wouldn't just copy and paste it. I would re-narrate it, and then the comments would be like, dude, you just did this. And I was like, well, did I? I don't fucking remember that. That's just how many Skinwalker stories they were. They all ended up blending in together. But by this point, I remember majority of the endings or majority of the plot twists, or I'll remember like a specific detail. Like just earlier today, I was not halfway through, but I was like quarter through narrating a story before realizing I've already narrated it a long time ago, so I just stopped. Do you get any hate on 4chan for your readings? Do you ever see posts addressed to you directly? I don't get any hate on 4chan that I don't already get from YouTube. Comment sections, I mean. And it's always like the same stuff. People hate my voice. And that's just something you just kind of have to get over. Do you ever see posts addressed to you directly? Yeah, I've had a few people say hi to me. Like, I will read through like a specific thread, and then I'll see people being like, hey, T6. And it's like, oh, hey. But, I'm actively saying, don't do that. If you want to say hi to me, tweet at me, or say hi to me in Instagram DMs, or say hi to me in the YouTube comments. I actually read those. I go on 4chan maybe once to twice a week. For finding stories, I should say. I'll be honest, and I think just because I'm a small channel for now, but I was very surprised to see like people were like, hey, I enjoy Maverick Files on X. And I was like, whoa. I was immediately prepared for them to be like, he sounds like a slur, fuck him, fuck this, fucking piece of shit. But that'll probably happen once I start getting bigger, because that's just what happens. Nexpo used to be their guy, and then he got really big and famous, and now they despise him. Same thing with Wendigoon. The fucking whiplash with him was insane, because I remember actively seeing so many threads where like, I fucking love Wendigoon. And then it's like, boom, he has 1 million subscribers, and it's like, I fucking hate this piece of shit. And it's like, what the fuck? At what point did you realize we enjoyed the way you reacted to fake texts? Like during particularly unbelievable ones where you'll say, then everyone clapped, or similar remarks. I used to have a lot of bloopers in my outros, and they were never forced. I don't like the idea of forcing bloopers. That seems kind of cringy. But since I've been narrating for so long now, I don't really have a lot of bloopers. I just have like mispronunciations that I'll just kind of quickly get over. But in the bloopers and the old videos, I would often make like an offhanded comment. And then people in the comments would like start like they would love that. And I was really surprised to see so many people talking about how much they enjoyed when I would like quote unquote go off the script, as a lot of you say. So that's why if there is a moment where I go off the script, I just keep it in the story versus saving it for a blooper. Have you ever thought of doing scary movie reviews? Yeah. There is one guy very specifically who always brings up the fact that a very long time ago I talked about doing movie reviews. And so he will still comment being like, still waiting on that movie review. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But what happened is that I was going to do movie reviews for like a new channel, very similar to like Mr. GG, who is also another big YouTuber that I fucking love watching. And then I sat there and I was like scripting what I was going to say, scripting how I felt about a movie. It was obviously going to be like, oh, choose a bad movie so it's more entertaining. And then I was like, oh my God, like editing this sucks. Like editing the video and having to edit down the movie to find the specific moment, like, oh my God, that sucked. And that's when I was like, yeah, that's not for me. Why not just not curse in the videos so they're not limited ads? I make videos myself, and I find that anything that doesn't have cursing in the first 10 minutes, no matter how much the rest has, will be manually reviewed to be green. So it's actually not because I curse. It's mostly because the content has some graphic descriptions. Yeah, very rarely is it because I'm cursing. It's mostly because it's like, oh, they're talking about, like sexual assault, or they're talking about gore, or they're talking about war, and they go into very dark details. And that's normally what kind of gets me fucked over. It used to be because not like I've changed this or anything, but it used to be because stories talked about guns. That used to get a video in some deep trouble, but not anymore, thankfully. But yeah, no, it's normally because it's just a really, really morbid description at some point in one of the stories. If your previous channels weren't wiped off the platform for no reason at all, I'm sure you would have hit this milestone long ago. I bet it's bittersweet, huh? It feels kind of like a jab, but alright. No, it's not bittersweet. Because funny enough is that when the archives died, when YouTube killed the channel only had like maybe 25,000 subscribers. And when I finally stopped uploading and I primarily focused on Maverick Files, the channel got up to 30,000 and then it stopped. And then when I created T6, when I created this channel, the archives, I'll see if I can screenshot it. The archives just out of nowhere, several months into retirement, several months after not having any uploads, the fucking channel just skyrockets. It goes from like 30 to 35 to 40 to 45, 50, 55, 60, 65. And I think it is still, I think now it's at 66 or 67,000 subscribers. So it's like it has reached more growth from me not uploading to it than the years that I spent uploading to that channel. And I think that's what's the most annoying, is that it's like the channel fucking popped off after it died. It's like, wow, that's almost offensive in a way. It's a little past 6 in the morning right now. It is about 12 hours until this video goes live, and I just needed to throw this in. I want to thank each and every single one of you. When Time 6 was created, I was beginning to spiral into the lowest point of my life. I had nothing. I had nothing to my name. I lost my car. I lost my job. I lost my partner at the time. I lived with my mother and we were dirt poor, being threatened with evictions and water issues and power shutoffs and so much other stuff. This was all within the same time frame of about a year. I'm not exaggerating when I say that Time 6 and my cat were all that I had. A few months later, a friend offered me to move in with him, and I declined at first. But after some personal reasons came up, I took him up on the offer. Even in the new home, I told him that I would take care of myself when it came to groceries and personal responsibilities. And by that point, I was making roughly $14 from Patreon, and I wasn't making ad revenue yet. I didn't even have a bed at first, so I slept on the floor in my office while I made sure Luna was sleeping on my pillow. And several years later, so many ups and downs, it is unbelievable to even comprehend. But because of Time 6, not because of you, because of your support, I made it. I have a car that I paid in full with ad revenue. I have my own place by myself. I don't have to worry about bills or the next time I'm gonna eat. I will forever be grateful for all of you. This next part I'm going to show is an Instagram reel that I found many, many months ago. When I found it, I saved it and entitled it, Use for 100K. Because everything he says in the reel resonates with me. But it hit very close to home for me because, well, my name is Sam. You understand. Have a good night.
You're doing great, Sam. Look around, man. You should be proud of yourself.
I am, man. I'm not sad or nothing like that. I don't even know what to call this feeling.
Talk to me. What's going on?
It's just I live a very different life than I used to. I have a job, I have a house, my bills are paid. Just never actually thought I'd make it this far, you know?
What do you say we keep going?
Sounds like a plan.